would if we could
Molly.
hand over to you, Lucy,
Come
and
here.
you could tell us all the things that you'd like to tell us about your life and going to London, etc.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, obviously I'm Lucy. I'm 22 and this is Molly. She's my assistant's dog. She's only recently qualified. That's why she's a little bit excitable at the moment. She qualified 2 weeks ago today. So she's it's just beginning really, where she's just going to start learning how to work in public basically. That's going to be her job. But obviously I'm here to talk about my charity work, which apart from Molly is my life. That's what I devote my life to, and for which I got my MBE in the New Year's Honours this year. Congratulations. Thank you. So, yeah. Good girl. Yeah. Good girl. Yeah, so my work is kind of with 7 charities. I work in numerous different roles, from ambassador to trustee to lay member on committees. That's kind of, my work takes the form of writing, of speaking, appearing in videos and attending events and representing charities. And I've only done it in the last 3 years. It started in 2011. I said to my hospice nurse when I was doing my end of life plan that I wanted my life to mean something. I was scared I'd die and I'd just be forgotten and that would be the end of my life. She never forgot that. She always kept that in the back of her head, and when Together for Short Lives in 2013 said they wanted a young person to speak, she asked me if I'd do it. And my first ever event was Parliament, so starting at the top, as you do, and I gave my very first speech in the whole of my life. I'd never spoken before, and even when they asked me, Mum said, "Oh no, she won't," thinking I was too scared to do it really. But I wasn't, and I did it, and I got a standing ovation for my speech. And Dr Dan Poulter MP, who was the Parliamentary Under Secretary for Health, said my speech was a hard act to follow. So it was lovely to hear him say that. But since then it's kind of evolved. I did that first speech and that kind of kicked it all off. And then it started, my first work with a charity called Together for Short Lives, who are the children's palliative care charity for the UK. They were formed by 2 different charities merging, and that's kind of how they started. And I became what they called a Young Avenger. They have a transition task force, and they're to do with the transition between children's and adult services. So they made me part of that, but I also do more of an ambassadorial role for the whole of the charity. And that's kind of led to working with numerous charities now, doing all sorts, from writing to speaking to appearing in videos that have been shown at conferences all over the world, as far as Buenos Aires and as far as Asia. So my reach is expanding all the time, my work is evolving, and I really enjoy it. It makes me feel good, but it also means I can make my life mean something. It can count, it can give back, and I can leave the world a better place than when I came in. And that is so important to me, to feel that my life has meant something. That's why I do it. But it's so lovely when you achieve something, not because you do it for recognition, but because you do it because it's for the greater good of other people. And that's why I do what I do. And that's why I got my MBE, because obviously for services to young people with disabilities, a lot of my work has covered young people with life-limiting and life-shortening conditions. So that's kind of how I got my MBE. But my work goes broader than that, to all children with disabilities, all adults with disabilities, all people with life-shortening, terminal conditions, palliative care, transition period, all sorts of things like that. And that's my reach of my work. I don't really stick to one little niche. I do all sorts, so I can make an impact in different areas, not just one. I want to make the biggest impact possible. And that's kind of how I do. I've spoken at the Department of Health as well as Parliament. I co-chaired an event at the Department of Health last year for the Young People's Health Partnership, which was a huge honour. Their co-chair, who was as a minister, stepped down, so they asked me to fill his role. So that was really, really lovely. And so my roles at the moment are Ambassador for Together for Short Lives, Global Youth Ambassador for the International Children's Palliative Care Network, Trustee of the Pseudo-Obstruction Research Trust, Ambassador for Dreams Come True, who are a wish-granting charity, and I'm a lay member on a NICE committee, so the National Health and Care Institute, that's it. So I work with them, and also with the National Council of Palliative Care, who recently took me on as their committee member. So my work, I do a lot of work, and I really enjoy it. And I've appeared in BBC Radio 4, The Listening Project. So Mum and I did this recorded conversation in 2014 that will be archived for future generations. So it's in the British Library, so that's going to stay. And last year I filmed a documentary called Rest in Pixels about how our social media presence lives on after we die. And how we can almost grieve through the internet now. There's blogs, there's online sites, there's tributes, and how that's kind of developing in today's world. So that was really interesting for me to kind of delve, because it's something I'd always thought about. I wanted to write some blogs and I wanted to make a video so that I would live on the internet, even after I'd passed away. So that was quite an interesting thing to delve into, how my feelings about it, but also learn a lot about what is out there that I can use to make my life count and life live on after I've died. And yeah, so there's an awful lot of things I do nowadays that, you know, are really, really lovely and really good for me, but good for other people as well. You know, I'm an advocate for others, so I speak up at meetings at the Department of Health for young people, for adults, for children, and share their needs. So bring the young person and the child's and the adult's need to the meetings, because it's so easy for commissioners to make a decision on behalf of a person, but if they don't consult that person, they don't know that what they're doing is right. And that's my role, is to make sure that all the decisions that are made are in the best interest and are what patients want at the end of the day, because if it's not what we need, there's no point making a guideline that doesn't serve the population it's supposed to. So we have to kind of work on that with them, with commissioners, with ministers, with charity executives, with Department of Health officials. Done quite a lot of work with Department of Health officials on guidelines. Obviously with NICE now, I'm part of the guideline committee for end-of-life care. So over the next 2 years, we will decide what patients need and what needs to change and what the guideline needs to be to serve the population at the end of life, for all adults at the end of their life, what they need, where they want to be cared for, you know, what their families need, because care at the end of life is not just about the person who is dying, it's about the family, the wider family, not just the immediate family, but the whole family. I always say when a person gets sick, the whole family gets sick in effect, because everyone's lives are irreparably changed by that illness. And it's so important that carers' needs are factored in. You know, my mum cared for me solely with the help from carers, but they couldn't do my medical needs for 7.5 years. We couldn't get any nursing support because they said, you know, well, if you want a break, you can put her in a care home. So obviously we weren't going to do that. So mum kept on, but she got diagnosed with a brain tumour last year. So yeah, that was a big step. We had 3 weeks before her operation to build a care plan from scratch, build a care package from scratch. And it was really difficult because they considered going out, visiting my mum in hospital, doing anything, having a dog. That was all an unnecessary luxury, including hospital appointments. They considered those luxuries, and they're not. They're not luxuries. And obviously now that it reignited my fuel really to keep making a difference, because they need to think about the carers. They could run a second NHS on the amount of money that a carer saves the economy every year, which is huge, but they don't get the recognition. And that's a new part of my work, is through Mum and I's experiences, is to raise the awareness of the carers' needs. And it's so important, because as I said, the whole family gets sick, the whole family is affected by the illness. So there needs to be support for the whole family, for siblings, for parents, for grandparents, for cousins. There needs to be more support out there, but especially for the carers who provide the care unpaid for their loved one. You know, they need to be important in the needs of the person with the illness, not just the person with the illness, but their family, even their friends. You know, there needs to be bereavement support, there needs to be, you know, support groups, there needs to be caring to give the carer a break. It's like I always say, care packages are not just about the needs of the person. You need to factor in the carer again. But people quite often don't. They think, well, we'll serve their needs, but not their needs. And that's not how it should be. It should be carer and person's needs together, and build a care plan like that. And again, building the care package around the patient. You know, it's so easy to say, well, you know, you can have this, but if it's not what the patient wants, that needs to change. It needs to be patient-centred, it needs to be personalised, and it needs to be, what do you want out of your life? And then that's how you start building the care and the services and, you know, everything around that person and their wishes, and that population and their wishes. Because what's right for one area is not right for another. There's different religions, different races, there's different people with different needs. And we need better care to support all of these people within the community, if possible. Because that's another thing, we need to prevent unneeded admissions, really, unnecessary admissions. Because so often I can nearly be in hospital when I could be cared for at home, but there's not the support there for 24/7 services to allow people to be at home. And that's why people end up in hospital so often. They say we want to care for people in the community, but then they don't provide the services to meet those needs in the community. But like palliative care, it's very much 9 to 5 in the community, and you just think, well, people aren't only ill or only dying in 9 to 5, they're dying 24/7. There's a lot of work I need to do and a lot of work I need to fight for the needs of the patient and the needs of the family and the carers. And my work will never be done, I don't think, will it? And I won't ever stop. Even when I'm poorly, that's all I'm thinking about is the next thing I can do. What charity can I work with next time? What piece of area I can work on? And it's just so important to me to make my life count and to make an impact, not just for my own life, but the lives of others. It's, using my experiences, positive and negative, using them both and making constructive differences out of those experiences. And that's kind of why I do what I do. But as I said, in the New Year's Honours 2016, I received my MBE. And I wasn't expecting it. I found out in November. And Mum, you thought that it said I'd just been nominated, that I hadn't actually got the award. I kept saying, no, I have actually got it. No, you're just nominated. So we had a little bit of a battle over that, didn't we? But yeah, it was only when the Cabinet Office phoned and said, would you come up and be one of our representatives for the honours for this year, that Mum went, oh yeah, you have got it. Yeah. So that was lovely. It's been a bit of a whirlwind, and it was such a short build-up. It was in February I got poorly, and I was in and out of hospital for a long time. I had septicemia a couple of times, and it was just a really difficult time. So I didn't really get to enjoy the build-up to my investiture, which is a shame. And I got a lot of opportunities through the MBE that I then had to give up because I was poorly. But I managed to get myself well for my day at the Palace, and what a day it was. It's something we will never forget, for my mum, for me, my grandma, and the nurse, who was the envy of the rest of my team because she got to come with us. And it was just a very special day. And you come into the gates of Buckingham Palace, and people being outside trying to take pictures of a car thinking it's someone important, and you just think, really? I should have done my royal wave, shouldn't I? Yes. Yeah, and going into the actual Buckingham Palace, I cannot fault their disability support. I must say that they had someone with me all day. They had all wheelchair access, lifts. I didn't want for anything, which was quite unusual. For an old building, it's quite unusual to have all that kind of support there for disabilities. But so when I got there, I was separated from my guests. So they went and sat in the ballroom, and I went with the other honorees, mixed with a lot of them, met a lot of them, and I was the youngest one there, which is quite nice. I know it makes it more special. I think I was the second youngest honoree this year. There was another boy that I think he's 11, and he got a British Empire medal. So that was lovely. It's nice that they're recognising the younger generations for their work as well. I never thought after 3 years' work that I'd be getting an MBE, but I can understand that they're valuing the work, not the length of time, but the impact of the work you're doing. And I think that's very important, that you recognise the impact, because anyone can do something with a big impact, whether they do it over a short period of time or a big period of time. So it's nice that the Honours Committee is recognising younger people that are doing good work. And so we got separated from my guests, and I met with the other honorees. We had a kind of briefing session, told us what to do, what not to do, most importantly. There was all sorts. And then we went through in short groups. So I was the second last group. Went into a room next to the Palace, next to the ballroom, they briefed us again, and then it was my turn to go in, and my heart was racing. But I was in a wheelchair, I wasn't going to fall over, so that's good. Someone nearly did, so I'm glad that didn't happen for me. And I didn't drive into the stage or knock anyone over, so that's good. And I drove in, turned, bowed, went up to him, and I thought there'd be this kind of barrier between him and me, but he stepped off the stage to be at my level, and he asked me about my work, and he was very appreciative. He even complimented my wheelchair, so I think he's a bit jealous. But so he was really lovely. He said to me, what have you done, and keep up the good work. And I will never forget, though, I think it was 2 minutes that I was with him, I will never forget that. And even down to his handshake was even genuine. He cared about every single recipient. He wanted to know their story. He wanted to know what they'd done and why, and he was very genuinely appreciative of that. And I thought that was very lovely. I thought there would be this kind of divide between him and me, but it felt like just talking to a friend, which was lovely. And then obviously my time ended, I shook his hand, bowed my head and drove out. And that I came out in a blur, really. I don't really know what happened after that. I went and sat at the back and kind of took in, but when the national anthem was played at the end of the ceremony, that was really moving, because it was a live band playing, and it kind of dawned on me then. Even when I was with Prince Charles, it didn't dawn on me. But I kind of thought, oh, wow, I've actually got an MBE. I am a Lucy Watts MBE, and I still, when I get letters now, I get surprised when it says Lucy Watts MBE. I still get, oh, that's me. Yeah, so I don't know. We've brought the DVD of my ceremony. If we'd like to show it to you. If you'd like to see it, shall we set that up now?